All right, welcome to Fathers Who Bother, a podcast for men who are dad as we want to be. My next guest is an Emmy-nominated producer who got his start in Hollywood as an actor, starring in sitcoms like Homeroom and True Colors, and dramatic films like Cadillac Dreams. He went on to not only co-create MTV's Lyricist Lounge Show, he is also co-creator of TLC's wildly popular children's series Hip Hop Harry, and Snoop Dogg's animated YouTube children's series Doggyland. Today, we are going to talk about how being a father has inspired his recent work. Please welcome Claude Brooks to the podcast.
Jerry, thanks for having me here, bro.
Thank you, Claude.
You're doing good. You're doing good things over there. Talking about to the dads of the world, and just shedding light on that whole situation of a dad and a father. Right. That's it.
I appreciate you, man. In my career as a journalist and writer, I always came across, MC singers, DJs who would have their kids with them sometimes, but we never got to talk about that side of it. It was always about the project or whatever movie, but we never got to get into it. So I said, let me create an opportunity and a space for men to have these conversations, and it's done well. I think people really appreciate what we're doing, and I appreciate you for being here today. I usually start with a pretty straightforward but great question. So tell me about the time when you first found out you were going to be a dad.
Oh, when I first found out I was going to be a dad, well, I am, and let's see. So my daughter just turned 11, literally, and this is daughter and wife and the whole thing. So man, her name is Milena,
Uh-huh.
and it was very much so something that we wanted to have happen. And sometimes you have babies and you didn't know it was going to be on the way, but we were like, let's put in some baby time to make a baby happen, right? So once the results came back, so to speak, one of them tests, and Sandra showed me the test. I was like, you'd have thought I won the lottery, man. I couldn't wait, and folks say that they have like kids, whether it's late in life or early in life or whatever, and I think it just happens like how it's supposed to. But I was living my life up until the point of before we had Milena, as very much so knowing that this is what I wanted to. In my 20s, I was like, I had girlfriends and in and out of girlfriends. I lived a single life really, really, hard and just did it all. So when I got into my 40s is when I was like, okay, it's time to try to get the dad beats going, and
Right.
I really couldn't wait to being a father, and I had a chance to be a father figure throughout my life. One was with my nephew, which was over like 20 years ago, when my sister and and her husband, they went through a divorce, and he was early teens and started to act out in such a way that I was like, let me come and
Yeah.
grab you up from Atlanta and stay with me. So he got back on track within a year, and it gave me real dad duties, because it's like now I'm taking him to school and talking to the teachers, and I just realized that I had a knack for real structure and all of that type of stuff. So much so that the school that we took him to, they were like, "Would you come in and talk to the parents, and just in terms of what you're doing with him and blah blah blah?" And I was like, that was it. So dad veins and uncle veins have ran through my blood in a big way. And you did mention my show Hip Hop Harry, which is over like almost 25 years now ago that I did that. And
Has
that
it been that
features,
long already? Jeez.
yeah,
Wow.
man, yep, which is crazy. So that's been around for a minute, and that features like 10 to 12-year-olds, 9 to 12-year-olds as kids on the set, and so we had like easily like 18, 20 of them on the set, and just in interacting, with them in a way. One of the things I realized early on, even in hiring the kids, it wasn't about hiring the best and most talented kids, though those are the ones we wanted. I would also interview the parents, because I was like, look, you know, and the interview with them in the beginning wasn't necessarily for them to realize they'd be an interview. It's like, hey, I just want to get to know you, so come on, and we'd have a thing, and we'll just ask them just random questions. So listen, if there's a day where your kid's like wakes up and is like, hey, you know what, I don't want to do this today, or what, how would you respond to that, and what would you do to, just giving them just different, scenarios of like, who's the boss in the house? 'Cause everybody says, sometimes the kid's the boss. What does that mean to you? And let them really tell you the truth, right? Because those type of things really have mean something to one. If you're going to be in production and you're expecting them to follow through on certain things and they don't even follow through at home, well,
Yeah.
the chances of them, becoming somewhat of an issue down the road is it too, right? And yeah, so long answer to your question, but all of those daddy veins
Yeah.
were in me, and I got that from definitely exposure that I had as a kid.
Yeah, I feel you on the interviewing the parents part, because I briefly taught first grade out of college, and I always tell people that it was the parents that steered or really influenced that experience for me more than the kids, because anything that was going on with the kid usually stemmed from the parent at home. If you're gonna if they're doing well in school, it's usually because the parents are doing something at home. If they're not doing well, if they're unprepared, you find out, oh, something's going on with the parents at home.
Yeah, no, you hit it. You hit it 100% on. It's like when my daughter was in preschool or whatever happens before preschool, and
Nursery school, I think.
Yeah, nursery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we went to pick her up. I would go to pick her up from school, and one of the things too is I had all of her friends would call me Mr. Claude, and you pick, there's some parents like, no, call me by my first name, and that's cool too. But I was like, no, we're gonna put a Mr. in front of my first name, just so we're kind of clear on what the relationship is
Sure.
like.
Sure.
After when school would get out, they would all kind of play together while the parents are, and some parents would be like, okay, you can play little Johnny 15 minutes. And I tell Milena, all right, you can play for 15 minutes. And I put the timer, and I was going, when this goes off, what does it mean? And she goes, it's time to go, Daddy, right? And it's like, great.
Nice.
So boom, it would go off, blink the alarm loud, and she would tell her friends, okay, my alarm went off, it's time to go. And some of the kids were like, Mr. Claude, can you let me know when it's time to go too? Right? Because they felt like it not only was fun, but they were like, oh, this gives us a little bit of structure and how to. And then some of the parents were like, my kids will listen to you. Can you tell them when it's time to go? And I was like,
That's dope.
you know what I mean? But just having a thing, because kids want to negotiate and be like, oh, can I just have another 5 minutes? Can I? Or I'm not listening to you at all. And I was like, yeah, we're not trying to set that up.
Man,
we're not trying to set up that relationship.
That pickup and drop off time is so crazy. My son is 23, and he works in these after school programs. He comes home every day with these stories about trying to corral the kids to get them home. Johnny didn't have his backpack. He didn't have his jacket. He didn't have this. He wants to leave. He doesn't want to leave yet. Da, 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 da. It's chaos.
It's a whole thing.
I can only imagine what you were going through.
It's herding cats. Right.
Quite. It's just herding cats. So when your daughter was born, where were you in your career? I know Hip Hop Harry was 20 some odd years ago. Where were you in your career when your daughter was born?
So I was. So we produced. So I should give you a little bit of a well, you gave a great backstory on who I am and what I do. So you hit a lot of it on the head. But I was very much so in development. Hip Hop Harry was still. Hip Hop Harry still exists and it's still going on. It's more about reruns and repeats and stuff like that. But we still do. So I was still in Hip Hop Harry-ish world as well as developing, other show types, but Hip Hop Harry probably was the main kind of engine, still going. And having a daughter at the time was just like, okay, this is a great, juxtaposition of life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll get into Doggyland a little bit more down the road.
Absolutely.
But I can't wait to tell you how she became involved with that as well.
Right,
it sounds like you had some good questions right up top. So let me not steer you.
I have a method to the madness, but yes, I understand. I wanted to get the folks to get introduced to your daughter a little bit before they find out how instrumental she is in the show, which I've seen some of the interviews you guys have done. She's already super camera ready, so we're going to get to that. But I also remember that your nephews helped you a little bit with Hip Hop Harry, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So the way Hip Hop Harry came about, was I like you mentioned, I did your co-created show Lyricist Lounge, which was a sketch comedy show where all the sketches were done lyrically. Come on, you ahead, so you know about that,
Wordsworth
right?
is a past guest on this show, so I'm very
No
familiar.
way. So
Yes.
you definitely know. So Wordsworth
Yes.
and Power and all those guys, man. Wordsworth's
Yes.
my dude, man.
Yes.
He's an educator, man. I'm very proud of what he's been up to.
Yes.
So with that, so that show was a staple where the sketches were done lyrically and all. Think of like Saturday Night Live, except the guest stars would be rappers, right? So we had everybody from Mos Def, Da Brat, Snoop. That's actually how I met Snoop. Was doing
Yeah.
that. He was doing that show.
Yeah.
And Slick Rick, just everybody who was really kind of meant something to the culture was Onyx, and I could go on and on and on.
Tracy Ellis Ross. Yep.
Yeah, so Tracy was, and then we also had comedic actors, and that was Tracy's first job. So I gave, I was part of Tracy getting her very first job, which
We all
is
bless.
great
We
to
all
see.
thank you for that. You and her mom.
Both of them great. And a crazy story about meeting her mom too is, I did my very first job as an actor was a movie called The Wiz.
A little
Michael
movie called The
Jackson.
Wiz. A little movie.
Yeah. And here I am, man, with your boy Michael Jackson.
Oh, that's
How about that?
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So I got a chance to meet Michael and spend time with him, and also Diana Ross. So it was a full circle moment to have Tracy, on that show. But anyways, not to go on a tangent. So by doing this show where the sketches were done lyrically, right? So if this was a sketch right here, right now, we'd be rapping back and forth in the whole nine. And so I knew that you could use rhyming as a great narrative piece to tell story and everything, right? As well as we all grew up freestyling off the top and all of that. So I was part of that in a big way. So cut to, I'm helping my nephews at the time who were like 5 and maybe 7-ish with some homework related stuff that my sister, who's an educator, put together for them. And both of them were boys, and neither one of them was catching on at all. But at the time, I was developing a show with Nelly, who couldn't have been any bigger with Hot in Here out, right? And so they knew that. They were like, Uncle C is doing a thing. So they knew all of Nelly's songs. And all where the inappropriate languages would come up, they would just pause and not say it, but keep rapping so they could flow.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, they know this stuff. And so the light bulb went off like, oh, well, let me just try to freestyle some of the concepts that we're trying to teach them. And they caught on like that. And that's when I went, whoa, I should do like a show that teaches kids using rhyming as a mechanism. And that's how Hip Hop Harry, here's Harry over here. That's how Hip Hop Harry was. Yeah, that's how Hip Hop Harry was done. And it was at a time where gangster rap was so prevalent and hot. So I knew, and by then I had produced a few shows under my belt, but I knew that like trying to go out and pitch, and I was actually in business with Disney on a pilot at the time, with Keke Palmer, and so I just knew going in to try to pitch, hey, here's a great idea. It was a show where there'll be a rapping bear, and they're the folks will be like, that's gotta be gangster. Like, how are we gonna teach kids with with rap? Think 20 years ago, right, where it wasn't where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So I went and I bet on myself. I used my own money and made my own pilot. And I was like, worst case scenario, if someone doesn't buy it, at least I have like a DVD or something I could, a video I could sell. And it was able to work something out with the learning, with Discovery and the Learning Channel. And hence Hip Hop Harry became the hip hop Barney,
Listen, people don't understand how perfect rap and hip hop are for talking to kids. They think of the hardcore aspect of it, but when you speak to rappers, they love kids. They love having their own. They love talking to them. When I was working at a site called Urban Daily years ago, I had a pilot for an idea called Gangster's Fairy Tale, where I had rappers reading children's books, and I had one clip of M.O.P. reading Goodnight Moon that I wish I could still find, that was hilarious, because you got Fame reading and Dan's is sitting next to him just cracking up. He's like, and a comb and a brush and a bowl full of mush, and
That's dope. That's
And
dope.
these
And
is-
you gotta, dude, you gotta find that.
I gotta find it, but yeah, I just
You gotta.
just so just to let you know, I definitely appreciate you bringing those two worlds together, and I in that spirit. What did your daughter think of Hip Hop Harry?
So that
And
was one of the first things that she did see, yeah, and didn't
mhm,
realize like that daddy, actually made this show.
nice,
And she, yeah, and she's watched these older episodes and stuff, and just like get up and organically dance. And that was one of the things with Hip Hop Harry too. It made you kind of like organically get out of your seat and dance, and not just be a passive thing of like watching the show, but
yeah,
you want to get in and be part of the dance circle, and the call and response nature of a lot of the songs. When I say red, you say stop. Red, stop. Red. It's just boom. It's in there, and like
hmm
you've associated red with stop, and just all those types of mechanisms played into it in a big way. So she early on was like, you could see that this was like her. So she believed in Hip Hop Harry so much so, and we would have live shows that she would come to, and Hip Hop Harry showed up for her 5-year-old birthday party, right? And she was like, "No, Hip Hop Harry." And I got a video of her running up to Hip Hop Harry and giving him a big hug, and her friends doing the same thing.
you were
And she's
dad
like,
of the. I
"This
know
is
you were dad of the year for that. Oh my god.
oh." That is pretty, bad is pretty, and because it's Hip Hop Harry, so it's such a magical character. Then we couldn't be able to say like, well, there's somebody. It was crazy too when we had the party. She was like, "Where's Uncle David?" Because Uncle David's actually in Hip Hop Harry.
Oh, okay,
Right? And I was like,
okay,
he's busy today. So years
right.
later, she brought it up to me. She once we did finally reveal to her that who Hip Hop Harry is. She was just like, "What? Oh my gosh,
So he's
And
literally Uncle David is not literally her uncle, or just like, or
so
was
he's like the brother and the guy who we've been working together for over 20
Got it.
something
Okay.
years.
Got
That
it. Got it.
he's become Uncle David,
Yeah,
and so he's inside of Hip Hop
that's
Harry. He's
so
also
dope.
inside of Bow Wizzle. But so that was just like a whole thing. But
He's
for her
also
to just be
inside
like,
of a current
the live action
Doggyland.
character of Bow Wizzle. Yeah,
Okay.
of Bow
Okay.
Wizzle, yeah. And so it's pretty phenomenal that it's it feels very much so family. But to answer your question, that she was just like, wow, this is I'm growing up and I'm around Hip Hop Harry, because she would come when we're shooting stuff and doing
Yeah.
doing all these various things.
Right.
And we at the top of COVID, Hip Hop Harry had a resurgence. So Go Go Go, Who's Next, which is kind of the song at the end of every episode, had this resurgence of like people taking it on for who's going to be next for change. So they would like have marches to it, and then people were just taking on who's going to be next to have fun. So you had all these people at home doing the dance at home. So from celebrities dancing at home to families. So literally within like a whole month, we're getting like almost 100 million streams of this song in various platforms and stuff, and we're all like, yo, what is going on? And luckily for me, I don't have a very big team, but I got a great team, and Chris Enriquez, who was handling the social media aspect of stuff we were doing with Hip Hop Harry, and he was also learning social as it was happening too. But he was like, what we should go live with Hip Hop Harry, and with the fans and with influencers and with your celebrity friends and blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but yeah, let's do it. And we did end up going live. Our very first episode was with Kid from Kid and Play and Fred Drill from Onyx. And we got on and did and I just saw like all these people started joining on, and the numbers go, and this thing just took off. And when it took off, we ended up then bringing in like some little bit of sponsors and giveaways and turning it into a show, like a real show. Every Saturday was guests, and people could just get in, and kids can interact, and it turned and it led to a whole lot of things with Hip Hop Harry, and it ultimately led to Doggyland, because Snoop hit me off and was like, hey man, can I be on one of the lives? And I'm like, say less, let's go, you know. And then after that, he was like, I would love to do something that feels on brand with mine and give back to the kids the way you've been, you know, doing it with Hip Hop Harry.
That was my next question. So how did you guys come to formalize that relationship and create Doggyland?
Yeah, so it literally was that. So after him doing the live, and he was like, "Look, I have grandkids, and they, they love what I do. I'd love to give them something that's from me, but speaks to them, but also, just more importantly, how can we, just lean into the kids across the world, right? But especially just starting from where we're from, and because he's about that, like in a very big way. He has a youth football league and a special needs league too, right? And his youth football league, like over 1,000 of the kids have gone to college. I think over 50 of them have made it into the league, or some number that's like it's crazy,
Yeah.
And it's not just about the kids who are playing. There's the cheerleaders and it is, and he's been taking care of that, footing the bill, so to speak, for all these years. And I was like, man, hey, I'd love to, help be part of that to whatever degree, as well. So we had some very, very common goals in that way. Hold on a second. Let me just make sure we're plugged in here. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, my battery was saying it was going down. I was like, uh-oh. So with that, one of the things we were like, look, let's figure out what this show would be about. And he has an artist named October London, who's like the next big. You up on October?
Oh yeah, I saw him live in Baltimore, not this past summer, but the summer before. They have a outdoor concert at the Druid Hill Park, and he was one of the headliners with Maya, and he's fantastic. I mean, I knew about him before, but I've seen him live, and if you love October London's music, you need to experience him live because he's fantastic.
Yeah, no, he kills the game on live, and this is so October. He was like, look, and this is before October came out. He was like, I'd love for October to be part of the process of us developing this thing. And I was like, is this a favor, or was he really going to bring something to the table? He's like, no, he's going to bring bring something to the table, and he really has. He plays the role of Woofy. So he voices and sings this guy here, which is why some of our that. Yeah, man. So a lot of the songs on there, he's penned and he's in all of the songs, right? And one of our biggest songs, "I Am Me," is him really like leading that one. But make a long story short, so we all got in and developed this idea. And what we wanted to get out of Doggyland was for it to be like this is like a tour T-shirt I got on here.
Branded. Send me one size XL, bro.
Yeah, come on. Okay, yeah. We're on email. Send me some information. Send me size. Let me get you locked up, bro. Let me get you ready. Okay, I'll get you with that, and I'll send you some other goodies. I'll see what I got nearby. But if you got some little ones in your life too, let me know.
Mine are older. Mine are 23 and 16 now.
How about the plush here?
Oh, I'll take it. Come
on, you got that right?
I got my toys here.
Oh, nice. Okay, there you go. Come on.
All my joints here.
We gotta make it to your desk. That's what's up. So we wanted to do a show that was very much so social, emotional based, right? That we're talking to like, how do you become a better you, right? And for songs to be like that. So like our biggest song is, and man, you gotta close that safe. The hide all that money you got over there, Jerry.
Sorry, yeah, that was Baby Groot was trying to run away.
That's funny. With these social emotional songs are really just kind of like about just I Am Me, the affirmation song, all these things about how can you become a better version of yourself. We also do cognitive songs, like the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s and all that, as well. And this thing's about like exploring the world, like being on a train or, just all. It's like, how big is the world, and how can you be a better self, and how can you be a kind person to yourself and to others. And imagine if you got all of this messaging early on in life, who you will be later on, right? And so that was it. But doing it with a dope hip hop beat and a dope,
for
crossover
sure.
beat, and we do all genres of music, but it feels like you should feel like, it will come out of Snoop, so to speak. Right?
Now the
So we
song,
do cross into everything, man.
now the song that put the show on the map for me was Affirmations, and I think that was a lot of people gravitated towards that one. And I understand your daughter Milena had something to do with the creation of Affirmations. Talk to me about that, Luke.
What do you think about you and Uncle Snoop doing a song about affirmations? Because me and Mommy, we say our affirmations on the way to school. But I think if you did a song with Uncle Snoop, it'd be way cooler, way more fun, and everybody would love it. And I was like, that's not a good idea. That's a great idea. And so she literally was like the light bulb on that. And that's when went off and linked up with Ali Alimi, who's also voices the character Barks-a-Lox, but he's the main rap writer from that. And Ali comes from Lyricist Lounge.
Yeah,
And
see,
also is the
full
voice
circle,
and is also the voice of Hip Hop Harry, which is a full circle moment with that too.
Wow.
But so we got together and got a great track and beat, Deion Dobson and rest of the producing group, and it really just became this, this thing of what a great song to like go, have Snoop Dogg Bow Whistle saying to you, I believe in myself, and you're responding, I believe in myself. Today's gonna be an amazing day. Right, and you're just owning it. And when you go onto IG, it's over like 20,000-30,000 reels of people just doing it. But what's really crazy about this is when you look at the reels, you would expect them to be like people with their kids. 80% of it is adults. Straight up adults, literally 80% of it's just like adults, going, I needed this. This was speaking to my inner child. But we get literally every week a few emails from, whether it's teachers, parents, but teachers, we get a lot of teachers who send us videos of this is how they start their day. They start their day off with the song, almost as this is their Pledge of Allegiance. And then they put up the video on the screen in their schools, and they played along. And what we did was we embedded in our videos a little bit of dance along. So a little TikTok, move. So as you go, today's gonna be an amazing day. Like there's movement to all these things.
Right.
And so the kids are learning movement with it, which is now also another layer of learning, because it's another layer of a retention. When I say raise the roof, what do you think of? Raise the roof.
Yeah.
Raise
sure.
the right. So cards, all this type of stuff. So it just helps you like own it more, but also it gets you out of your seat, Jared. Which, that's it. So we have. So this song is like turned into becoming like and it just builds every year. It literally just builds every year. Every year it just builds. I think it's close to like 25 or 20 or 30 million just on Spotify. And, it's in the videos off the chain, and it's like but it just continues to just build and build and build and build upon itself. So much so that Snoop, it's like, Claude, man, I'm at my shows, and people be in the audience holding their phone up to me with some words on it, and so like have security give me the phone, and they're saying play Affirmations, and he's like, I can't play Affirmations after Gin and Juice. Like, oh my goodness, I gotta figure this thing out. Like, so we do have a couple clips of him actually playing Affirmations at his show. So he's like, worked it into some of his shows, and
That's
and the whole
fantastic.
nine.
But a lot of his audience got kids now. So like you said, they need those words of affirmation too. So that's beautiful. Now I know,
man, no, it's amazing. It's amazing, and for my daughter to feel like she has a lot to do with all of this too. It's just an amazing.
which is my next question was going to be, your daughter, I believe, does she voice a character or?
Yeah, so she voices a character named Rolla
Okay.
on the show, and so she's like, like the younger even pups than the pups on the show, but in addition to voicing Rolla, she's pretty much on all of the songs that you hear, all of the kids' voices that you hear that does the call and response parts. That's her, and she'll go in. And when we first were doing this, she'll go in. I'll be like, okay, Melena, do your voice. I go, okay, can you give me a little bit older voice? She goes, yeah. And I go, and can you give me a boy one? And she give me. So now I could stack the track with 3 different kids' voices, and it was all Melena. And she became a pro, such a pro at this. But she also became like a pro rapper too. Like she can hear the thing, and just spit it right back. And now she puts her inflections on the thing, and
Hey,
she can.
word.
Yeah, man. No, word,
You raising a
word.
little
So she's
Regina King over here, man.
yeah,
Doing all
yeah.
the voices.
And she just met Regina too. It's so funny you said that. She just met her
See.
like a couple weeks ago, and she's and MC Light is a dear friend of mine. So she's been over the house
And her voiceover
so
game
she's
is crazy. Outside of her
crazy.
rap career,
Yeah.
her second life as voiceover is equally impressive. Shout out
God,
to MC
it
Light.
is, and so for to be able to share some of the stuff that Melena's been doing with her, and to hear MC Light say great job, like she just got so much village win behind her, and she really owns it. And we also have another character on. Are you up on Van Van, the 6-year-old
Bro,
rapper?
if I could show you my list of questions, Van
you think I'm
was
reading it, huh?
No, Van Van's literally the next question I was gonna ask about Chow Wow.
Hey man, I got to tell you something, Jerry. You're doing a good job. You've produced this well because I'm flowing into it without seeing it. That means
Yes.
that means that you've really thought this through.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
As a
you.
producer, just want you to know that, bro.
Yeah, let's talk about Van Van, man. What's it like working with the young influencer and her contributions to the show?
So Van Van, once she came onto the scene, Chris, who's part of our social, we connected with her, and she was a big fan of Doggyland. And when we saw it, we were like, whoa, let's figure out, something to do with her. And the very first song we did with her was a remix of a cleanup song. And she came in and her dad, Reggie, is phenomenal. She's a phenomenal rapper, but they're an incredible family in that it's about being, and I think that's part of like why you hear it in her voice. It's not like, I'm a show off kid who's rapping to you, as opposed to it's coming from real places and I'm trying to give it to you, which is a very different approach to rapping. You know what I mean? Like the kids I feel that have really resonated are the ones where you feel like it comes from somewhere, and to feel that at such a young age is it. And so her voice is so distinctive, and she comes from great stock. So after we did her first thing, we then created a character for her called Vancy, and it's like Fancy Vancy, and she's on like easily like 15 or so songs, and we've done a little some live action stuff with her, and online you'll see her meeting Snoop, and that is a great moment, for her as well.
How did you discover?
It's been amazing working with them.
How did you find her? For the folks who might be living under a rock who aren't familiar with Van Van, when did you first?
So Van Van, if you want to look her up, I think it's under the real Van Van might be her thing.
Yeah.
And the way we found her, she reached out to us via on Instagram, and then we responded, and just the relationship, began. Either she reached out to us or we saw her first, one or the other.
Okay.
But Chris, who handles our social, was like, what I remember is him going, man, we've got to just do something with her. She's so amazing. And then once we got into working with her, because they're in North Carolina, they come out here now quite a bit. This would if this was 10 years ago, it just wouldn't have worked as well, just because being able to hop on like a Zoom like we're doing right now and feel like you get to know someone. You don't have to be in the same room. And like, okay, you got a studio that you can go to? Great.
Yeah.
Here's the stuff. We don't actually have to be in the same room, and can I coach you while you're doing it? And like all that type of stuff. Technology has really helped the game.
That's what's up. And social media, because that's where she got a lot of her first shine.
But we've become, I'm Uncle Claude to her, and we've really become a great, and we're looking to we're just developing. There's a couple things coming down the road where you'll see her even featured more, which is great.
Word. So one of the pups on the show, Chow Chow, is on the autism spectrum. Talk to me about what inspired that inclusion and how you went about executing that.
So you're good, man. You did your research. So it's Chow Wow, and Chow Wow
Mm.
is
I'm
is
sorry. I
a
thought I
is
said
a
Chow Wow. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's all good. So the
Okay.
Chow. So here's what we did with Chow Wow. We purposefully put her as part of the main four pups, and so she's this pup right here.
Okay.
So that's what she looks like, right? And the idea with when you kind of like hear her talking or singing, but like intros into songs and she's a little bit more inquisitive, or she has like the right answer that seems kind of like left fieldish, right? So she's on the, which is somewhat, because spectrum means a lot of things, and there's folks who are sometimes where it's like they're inquisitive in a way, but you're like, well, how did you grasp other things, but or insightful in one area, but not so much in the and our main thing in doing this was just like, let's just put it out to the world without highlighting it all, without saying, hey, this character's on the spectrum, and see how the other characters relate to them. So if you do watch like our episodes, you'll go, oh wow, Chow Wow said something, and the other character just responded, and nobody's going, hey, well, what's going on here? And it really was to just kind of set up the idea of going, that's how you're supposed to treat people, period. And when they're on the spectrum, because we're all special, so being on the spectrum is your special power, right? As opposed to, that's the thing, it is something that makes you different in a good way, as opposed to it makes you different, right? And that's very different than saying that means you're different, right? Like those two inflections right there mean 100% two different things. And so that's the energy that we've been putting out on it. So we have not yet actually highlighted she's on there, and so we plan on doing that like in a big way. And Snoop is really like just loves that we've developed this character, because with him having his special needs kids, he's like, this is exactly his special needs camp, and we all, man, in everybody's family there's
Absolutely.
some, and you know what I mean, it may not be your immediate, but as soon as you start, if you do look, if you're blessed enough to know your whole kind of family
Yes.
structure out there, you'll see it, and I for sure, have it, and growing up, the way my mom, who played a major role in my life. My mom was, when we get back into dad conversation, my mom was played, though my father was around, they were divorced before I was born. So mom played dual roles, and my brother, who's 14 years older than me, Pierre, he also played a very big father-brother role in my early years, but she really got me to just understand, as we were meeting people in the neighborhood who were on the spectrum and stuff, just all of that type of stuff of like, learn how to embrace what their specialty is, and like that's what this is about.
Yeah. No, for sure. We've had previous guests, my brother Needles, the producer. He has a daughter who's on autism spectrum. I believe he has a Netflix documentary about her out now, about raising her, and it's something we've talked about and feel like more people should be comfortable discussing, because those families need support, maybe even more. So I appreciate you all including that, and even subtly, because I think you raise a great point that it's not something that should be othered, so to speak. You don't necessarily have to call it out, but it should be included. So I applaud you guys for doing that. You mentioned there's this funny story. I saw Snoop did an interview where he said he dressed up in a costume for his grandkids' birthday parties, because when he used to come as himself, it would kind of take away
Right.
from their party. So he would dress up so that he could be present, but not be a distraction. Have you ever dressed up in one of these
No,
costumes?
I haven't, outside of just rolling for Halloween. But I'm not Snoop Dogg, so I'm not a big distraction coming in. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like he is, and but you read the right thing, and he's even asked me, and we're good to get a Bow Wizzle costume for him so he can roll out as Bow Wizzle, which is so great. Jerry, you know what's so crazy about this? Because we've been, we do a lot of live shows and live events, and with the live action characters. And when folks see the Bow Wizzle character, people are always like, "Is that Snoop Dogg in there?" what are the chances of Snoop Dogg actually being in there? You know, like in the thing. And what's really crazy is one day he will be in. And that'll be the day I'll be like, no, not at all.
Right, 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 right. That's
But I
like
said, what up?
la- back in the day when Kanye first was out and he had the bear costume.
Mm-hmm.
I went to one show at Webster Hall where Dave Chappelle was inside of the bear costume,
No
and
way.
nobody knew it was Dave Chappelle. So
How did you know?
well, he took
Oh,
the
he took
head
it
off
off?
eventually at the end of the show. But
Okay,
the whole
okay.
time, there's this guy on the stage, and we're like, "Oh, it's the bear!" And all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh, that's Dave Chappelle," you know.
That's
So
crazy. Webster Hall, man, you bringing it back. You know I'm from New York, right?
I did not know that. So then
Yeah,
you,
man. So I'm from Harlem, Washington Heights,
okay,
right there. You know, is 160th and St. Nicholas, and
okay.
is yep.
I know that the
Born and
city
raised,
city
born and
college
raised
area
there.
about.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yep,
I know the area. I know the area for
yep.
sure. Since we were pivoting, you were talking about your mom. So I just finished reading Roy Wood Jr.'s book, The Man of Many Fathers, and in that book he talks about his own father, the men in his life who were father figures that he worked with, and how they all kind of influence his parenting style. So I wanted to ask you, in addition to your mom, your own father, and then you've been around Hollywood royalty since you were so young. How did all those people come to give you examples of parenting and fatherhood, and how have you incorporated that into your own parenting?
So starting with my mom, who had to, an incredible. Unfortunately, she's passed away before my daughter was born, like literally a year before, which I would have loved for her to have that moment. But she had an Afro Caribbean dance company called Marie Brooks Children's Dance Company, and if you grew up in New York, think like Alvin Ailey. Like Alvin Ailey was like an uncle, right? And Dance Theater Harlem, which is ballet with Arthur Mitchell. He was
Yeah.
actually my godfather. So my mom
Wow.
worked with
Okay.
those folks and would teach at their schools and had her own school as
Mm.
well in Harlem, and then ultimately was at Bed-Stuy Restoration
Mm-hmm.
she's housed. And I played, so I grew up playing the drums. I played the djembe so at 3 years old, I was with part of
Nice.
the company. It was a children's dance company, and we would travel the world. Like during the summers, she would take about 20 kids to a country,
Mm.
whether it was Suriname or Trinidad or Ghana, and we would go and learn their their cultural dances and then bring them back, right, and then
Right,
become
right.
part of the repertoire. And the thing I had a knack for was learning how to the drums of it, where
Mm.
because it's not, you can't really like notate Afro Caribbean music the way you do Western music with like the notes and the staffs and all that type of stuff, and so I was taught on how to like be the notator, right? So doom 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 brak, doom 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 doom, like learning how to sing the rhythms, and I'd be able to take them back and play them.
Right.
And it was a little bit of a gift. I didn't realize it as a kid, but and so I'd be able to come back and I always was like, well, Oba Balatunje and folks. You've heard of all these, iconic folks who were also mentors to me. So I did have like a seeing a mom who was very much so a leader and demanded, respect. Well, you can't be leading 20 kids and everybody's got an agenda. It's like, hey, when my mom spoke, people listened, but she was also very much so a loving person as well. And by leading by example was something that she taught me early on. And my brother, who's like I mentioned earlier, 14 years older than me, I thought that he was actually my dad until I was about like 3 or 4 years old, just because of the age gap. I didn't call
Yeah.
him dad, but I was just
Right.
like,
Right.
and he, he was some of my early on experiences of going to that was just man related stuff, but a lot
Yeah.
of the men that she had working with her or around, they became very much so big kind of like just role models. And then seeing some of the other kids with their parents, and some of them were also single parents, and some of them did have a dad, and just seeing those relationships. It was never a time though where I was like, man, I wish my dad was around. So my dad, who who's passed away as well. He was the head surgeon of the emergency ward at Harlem Hospital, and he's from
Wow.
Jamaica. My mom's from Guadeloupe via Trinidad. So both of them, immigrant
Mm-hmm.
styles of energy of like they come to here to make it happen. And so my dad goes all the way back, as well as my mom, of being, part of the movement with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So like they were friends with the family. I didn't get a chance to meet Martin Luther King passed away before I was born, but like they literally be over the house and like Adela Shabazz on on the Malcolm X side. From the stories as well as I have seen over the years, Q was
Yeah.
part of the fam and even maybe babysit me, that type of thing, and the whole nine. So understanding culture and all that was, was brought in, and I would see my dad kind of on like holidays and birthdays, and it wasn't like a 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. It was just like from time to time type of a thing. And when I would see him, his main interest was always like, how are your grades in school, and when more of that, like how your grades in school, and just are you doing well, but doing well in school for him dictated like how you're gonna kind of like do in life, right?
Sure.
Where my
Sure.
mom was more of doing well in school is important, but what's equally important is how are you as this overall person,
Mm-hmm.
like all of the moving parts. And he probably was more targeted with those questions just because, hey, I just got this finite amount of time, so I'm just going to ask these questions.
Yeah.
And what do you want to be in life? And at one point I thought I wanted to, every kid was like, I was one of them. I want to be a lawyer, or actor was what was on the list. Actors on the list, and being a president was on the list, and there was no Obama at the time, and everybody was be like, Claude, you could be a black president. No, we don't have one of those. Like one of those three things is like on the list, and he'd be like, oh, that's good. And he felt though that acting was kind of more of a fairy tale. Like no one makes a living acting was kind of like his vibe, and think, well, good, well that could be your plan B-ish type of thing. And I was like, nah, that's my plan A, And
Yeah.
once I started acting and making a living at it, which I did at a very young age, he was like, whoa.
Changed the
Okay.
tune, huh?
You changed the tune, man. Hey, so Jerry, quick story on that, man. At 8 years old was when I was taught at Lincoln Center at the end of a show at Lincoln Center that I had with my mom's dance company. I've been telling my mom all along, I want to act. I want to do what those kids do on those commercials. And she's like, well, as a single mom, I don't have time to take you on auditions, and there's a lot of rejection involved. And I was like, rejection? You've never taught me to believe rejection. Like, what's going on? Like that type of thing. Like rejection means just try another way, go another a way about it. And at the end of this performance, this guy comes backstage and he's talking to my mom. He's like, hey, I manage kids to do commercials and after school specials and TV shows, and who's that charismatic kid who plays the drums? He's like, it's my son, but he's something he wants to do, but we just don't have the wherewithal to really attack it. And I was off the side ear hustling this. And so when he walks away, I was like, hey sir, I heard you talking to my mother, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, I was telling her, and when he told me the story, I said, well, we're going to get back to you. Do you have a card? And he said, yeah. So he gives me a card. And I was like, next day, Mom, look, I saw you talking to the guy who's a manager. You don't want me to grow up and hate you because I didn't have a chance to go after my dream. And she's like, you know what, Claude, you're right. I should have got his information. And I was like, bingo, I got the card. She goes, give it to me, I'll set it up. I was like, nope,
You
lose
did the
everything.
Funky Finger Productions to your mom. You did.
Yep, exactly, bro. Jerry, I went ahead and set up the interview with him, and after meeting, we worked out a deal of like, let me go on 3 auditions. If I don't get any of them, at least I tried. It was my first audition was for The Wiz, a Burger King commercial, and an Underoos commercial. Remember Underoos back in the day, the underwear?
I remember the jingles in my head. Me and my underoos.
Wow, that's a good jingle if you remember.
I'm
man.
a '74 baby, so I know.
There you go. Then Jerry, the irony of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I booked all 3 jobs, and we were like, wow. And I just didn't, I didn't. My expectations was like, hey, I'll be lucky if I can get. I was just like, I'm going in to get this because this is my chance. And that's what this picture is, man. This was the picture I showed you earlier.
Yes.
This was my first audition, doing the Wiz. That was it. That's 8-year-old
like?
Claude, bro.
What was that like meeting Michael?
So that was, man. It was. One, it was just like to have somebody that all you did was listen to their music and remember we used to look at the albums and you look at the back and the different magazines of them, being on their go-karts or motorcycles, and you're just like, it was so fantastical lives that it appeared they've been living. So to have a chance to meet with him, and his spirit was very much so very kid-like, playful, like a kid, like, hey, let's hang out and the whole nine. So that was what we on set was a good bit of supervision, playful time with him, which was like, wow. And my sisters, and I got a chance to bring my sisters down to meet him as well, and he talked with such a high pitched voice and the whole thing, and you were just like, wow, this is so crazy, so crazy. But I knew it was a special moment, a special time, and I'm so glad that I have this picture, to just like go, to hold it. But that's how the journey began. And Jerry, when we got the residual check for the Burger King commercial, right? It was we get the check, and my mom goes, Claude, look at the check, right? And because she would have me like look at the money and take checks and go to the banks with her, and when it got money for birthdays, just so you can understand the system of it. And that's what I'm instilling with my daughter too, like just so you understand how this, if you can instill that type of stuff early on, it really pays off dividends in a big way, down the road. But I'm looking at this check, and I was like, wow, $320. This is amazing, Mama. And she goes, we're looking at it again, and it was $3,000 and $200 something, and I ain't never seen that like that before in my life.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, Mama, we're rich. We are rich. Like this.
What year was this? Just for context, roughly.
For context, this would be 76.
Oh. So y'all understand, $3,000 in '76 was a lot of money.
So here's the crazy part. I'm going to I was going to a private school that we had a scholarship for, Riverdale Country School, up in New York.
I know Riverdale. I went to Regis, so
okay, perfect. So yeah, I think we played each other and stuff, right? And so my mom was very, looking back, I'm going, a single mom with 4 kids. I don't know how she was doing this. My dad was somewhat supportive, but wasn't like the real deal. But she was making sure, she was just trying to figure out everything, and did a very good job at that. But when I saw this check, I was like, Mom, I want to pay for my own school fees.
Night. Look at you being all responsible. You didn't say I want to.
She was like,
want to go buy
ideas. Yeah. She was like, good idea. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
man.
Jerry, from 8th grade to the rest of my life, I put myself through school. And yeah, and it's like, yeah, man. So that was a looking back at it, just what I was instilled. It's amazing.
You had a few sitcoms you were on. Were any of the leads, the shows, does any memory stick out from that time?
The one that would be the closest to having a relationship as you know Frankie Faison is? Frankie Faison, the actor? So when I did True Colors, he played my father on True Colors. And so that was it's funny because I knew a little bit more about the business of the business than he did. He knew more about acting. Like I knew more about Frankie. Here, we're making this money, man. Like you should be putting it into this. And I had my real estate license at that age. I got my real estate license when I was 18. I was like, man, we should be like, and like I was really the business side. But we would have these great these conversations, and I also saw how he interacted with his wife, and so he would just sit and kind of talk to me about relationship stuff. And who else was a somewhat influential person, though we didn't spend a ton of time together was remember Bill Cobbs,
Yes.
the actor Bill Cobbs,
Yes.
New Jack City, the older guy in New Jack City.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
so,
Yes.
you know what I'm talking about? And he was going on. He's done a ton of stuff.
Yes.
I did a show with him called Homeroom, and he played my grandfather on that. And we had some. I think he probably was in his like 60s or then, and so we had some great. So I did that. I'm glad you're asking these questions, man, because yeah, over the years I've had, I've had folks who, were male role models that I just pulled, pull a little something from, and even the ones who showed me a lot of good and a lot of not so good. I've been around some men where their work ethic and all that is great, right? And their relationship with women are maybe not so great, in terms of like having lying to them all, right? And then you get caught. It's a whole big old to do. And so even with those, I learned early on, like when I was like being single, like, hey, be true, be honest. Look, I'm single and then I'm dating other girls. If you want to be number one, let's work hard at that. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? But and later in life, though, it did pay off because a lot of the women that I've dated are still friends, and they're like, the one thing I always knew where I stood, right? And that, for the most part, and everybody has mishaps, right? But that was so I did get a lot, like just being from the various kind of like male role models around me.
Something I talk about on the pod is like having a group of men who are also fathers to kind of lean on and commiserate with. And I went to your Instagram and I found a picture of you with the late great Malcolm Jamal Warner, and both of you holding your daughter. It's a beautiful shot. What do you remember about Malcolm? And my condolences to you, because you were clearly close. What was he like as a dad for folks who didn't?
Well, I'm glad. Wow, you did some good research. Well, Malcolm was one of my best friends and still is. We went to high school in New York together because we went to professional children's school. We needed a school so we could work, as well as I was recurring on the Cosby Show, which is how we met initially. And but we became life friends and had parallel-ish worlds in terms of relationships. And I had Malena is older than his daughter by 2.5 years or so. But once I really settled down, he was like, "Oh, Claude, I ain't gonna be the last one, man. You can't, just like what's what." And we both wanted to. We would talk about being fathers, but it was happening like in our 40s, as was happening in our 40s. And I got an amazing picture of him holding my daughter, which was 2 years before his. And you could just see in his eyes where you could actually see the moment of it going off, like, whoa, this is what I want to, I want to be this. And he was not a good father. He was a great father. So our daughters, would hang out a good bit, and they still you do a little bit of FaceTiming. We're just trying to keep that relationship, alive and going as much as possible. I can't wait for the day I get a chance to really talk to his daughter more about, she understands who her father is, for sure,
Yeah.
But to just get, a different perspective on it all. But he couldn't, he couldn't wait to become a dad once he knew it was going to happen. And once he was, man, when you talk about like all in, and then we would compare notes because we raise our daughters similar and very different in certain ways, right? So we would hear, so what are you doing with this and how's that with that? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take, I'm gonna take a little note on this. I'm gonna take a little, note on that, but being girl dads is very, because I don't have a boy, I can't tell you, but I've had boy experiences with my nephews. It is a whole different thing. You realize early on that you're making the imprint of what their relationships not only is going to be like with you, but potentially the relationships they're going to attract, right? And so we're very much so aware of that. And with the trick and with what we've been through and done in our lives, we're like, look, we want to be able to give them game on, on what to expect down the road. So
yeah,
and so I'm looking forward to that. Just myself. But we'd have all of those type of like just great conversations, and neither one of us were in fear of like who we think our daughters are going to attract, because we both felt that we're going to help them get the tools to understand what's what. They're going to get the heartbreak, and that's what we learn our most from, right? From heartbreak and everything, sometimes. But it's kind of like how if you've now given the tools of understanding, like, okay, well, this was that, it's this, and just what you're going to stand for too. And this phone, we both were like, whoa, we got to figure out how are we going to introduce, the phone and watching
social
things
media
on,
and all that stuff.
Yeah, like when and how is the right time, and even just the amount of time that we're like letting our daughters and still just watch stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like my daughter is 11 and she watches everything on YouTube Kids, which keeps her in the kids universe. Because you go on, I'm just watching stuff, right after mom or dad, and all of a sudden something crazy that's not necessarily appropriate pops up right after the video that you just played. You know what I mean? So there's some of that, but then more importantly, one of the things that my daughter just recently did, I forget what it was, but we were looking up something and you couldn't find it on YouTube Kids, like how something worked, and she was like, "Can I go on to regular YouTube to look up this thing?" And I was like, "Sure." So as she's looking it up, on the sidebar was all this kind of like stuff that wasn't appropriate, and she's like, "Okay, Daddy, after I'm done looking at this, I want to turn this off because the stuff that's on the side here doesn't feel like it's appropriate for me at all." That she's owning that, as opposed to can't wait to figure out a way to get around it.
Right.
Daddy, leave the room so that she can play on this thing, as opposed to like, this doesn't seem like something I should be watching.
She knows how to self-regulate.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, no, you hit the right words, man. Self-regulate, which is it. And I think that was the thing that I'm very much so about, and I felt that Malcolm was also pouring into that world as well. It's hard, man. I still can't believe that he's gone. I have his picture up in my house, and I walk by it and I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. He's in my phone still, just call a number from time to time, look at videos just so I can hear his voice. And I'm sure you've had, we've all had friends who've passed away, I'm sure.
I lost my dad in 2018, so I know exactly. I still have recordings. I did an interview with him that I still play just so I don't forget what his voice sounded like. So I understand completely.
How old was your dad?
He was, I want to say 74.
Okay, so relatively young.
Yeah, unfortunately, young. He
still had a great run.
Yeah, he's my hero. He's part of the reason I made this podcast, man, because I just wanted people to know that there are great dads out there, and it's not always, oh, my dad was terrible, he wasn't there. And I'm like, well, my dad was, and he was great, and he was a great guide and example for me with raising my kids. So, that's why he's a big reason why I started this podcast.
Man, good for you, and kudos to him. And and for folks who do listen to this, sometimes the dads who aren't there, so to speak, just get a bad rap. And there's some who deserve it, right? And if you do deserve it, right? But also there's some just where it's just circumstance, right? Where it's like, hey, this is just kind of what it is, and I can only see my child once a month or whatever the time it is. And it's just like, well, just be kind of purposeful on the time that you do get. And I feel like though my dad wasn't present a whole lot, the times that we did get, for the most part, it felt somewhat purposeful, and so that part feels good. And I got to tell you, if my pops did live in the house, from what I've heard about him, and him being, the Jamaican who's a doctor, and like that's what it's about. And I say those two things because if you come from the culture, you understand it. We're focused, and that's that, right? I would not be who I am today, because the latitude of the Claude who came home was like, I got the card, let's go set up a meeting. I think he may have like poo-pooed some of that stuff, you know,
Mm.
and been like, well, no, let's try that later on. First, let's focus on this, and then later in life you could focus, and you know what I mean. And whereas my mom was like, all right, let's give this a shot, and you know, let's see what happens. I'll make a deal with you.
That's what's up. Did was Malcolm a fan of Doggyland?
Yeah, so and that's another thing. So he was, and we had planned on doing a song and him having a character, and all of that, and because and you know his daughter was very much so aware of Doggyland. She would send her a bunch of stuff, and they would listen to it and everything together. And we just didn't plan that this would ever be coming to an end anytime soon. So we just never did it. Because we've done some kind of great collabs and stuff, and I still want to like kind of at some point revisit with his mom and his wife and just see is there some stuff that he's done, because you know he was very lyrical and a poet and songs and all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And if there's just something that he already may have that we can just fold into
that would
a
be
piece.
awesome.
But I wish that we would have did it, man. That we would have just did a song with our daughters. What a legacy piece.
Well, your daughters, I mean, your daughters could that's still something
do
that
it.
can happen.
Yep.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep the Malcolm flag waving high and hoping that, you know, Doggyland can bring him to the masses in a different way somehow, some way. But yeah, listen, thank you so much for this conversation, for everything we've learned about Doggyland and, you know, the beginnings of hip hop, Harry. And I could go on and on and on, but I know that you're busy and have things to do. But I wanted to just thank you for taking the time to talk to Fathers Who Bother, and I'm looking forward to everything you have coming up. And if there's going to be any Doggyland live shows that we need to look out for,
yeah. You know,
let
just
us know.
follow us on Insta. Yeah. This past summer we did a tour with Kids Bop.
Okay.
And did like 25 dates, that was amazing. And now this summer there should be some stuff coming up. We are going to be in Asia doing some stuff. This summer. Yeah. So yeah, man, just hey, follow us on social and you'll see what's popping up. There's a couple little surprises. We may be having some residency thing happening soon too. So keep us. Have you heard of Tony's? The Tony's box? That's this thing right here.
I have not.
So what it is it's a sound box where you this figure here, right?
Yes.
They have all types of figures, so like Disney figures and Paw Patrols and whatever. And Miss Rachel, who's like the biggest kids show. Mm-hmm. So ours is this, and when you put it on, boom, songs play in the whole nine. Oh, nice. And it's a curated thing, and since there's no screen, it's become this phenomenon. Like the company's huge all over the world. Number 2 selling figure for 2025, which is pretty amazing. And it's you know, so we have a lot of different little, you know, things that are happening. Just follow us, man. Follow us. You'll see. You'll see some of the things coming down the pipe.
So it's on all the socials. It's just Doggyland at Doggyland.
Yes, Doggyland Kids.
Doggyland Kids. Mm-hmm. Okay,
yep,
everybody.
You know, let me double check my own thing. Make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Yep, Doggyland Kids. Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody.
Doggyland
make
Kids.
sure you.
Yep. This is what we look like up there. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Doggyland
Kids,
_kids. Go to Instagram and all your socials and go follow them now.
Yeah, find us out there, man. And but it's great talking to you, Jerry. And man, you should feel. I'm sorry, your pops is proud of you. You should feel great about what you.
I appreciate
what you're doing.
I do.
And
This, thank you.
Keep the track going. And I know some days you're like, why am I doing this? And what's happening? What is going to happen is all of a sudden it's just going to pop. And when it does pop, your catalog is going to be your biggest thing. So keep it rolling.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. This has been Fathers Who Bother with Claude Brooks. Everybody, get home safe. Peace.